Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we are going to do the cutest little scarecrow you've ever seen, and the easiest. I know you guys got this. As always, I'll make sure to put everything I used today down in the description box below, so that way you guys can shop those items if you would like to. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. Starting off with the plaid. Now you guys know I absolutely love doing hand glittered plaid, but today we're going to try something different. We are going to use vinyl as our plaid. Now, I don't like to use vinyls too often. I like to try to do the things that we do with glitter versus trying to do like these dupe looks, but this is so easy and it's super cute. And honestly, you really can't tell the difference once it's all done. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go ahead and get this figured out as to what my width is going to be along the bottom. So we're thinking of this as the Scarecrow shirt. So with the size tumbler that I'm using, what is this? This is a 30 ounce, I do believe. I'm going to come up probably a good 4, almost 5 inches up the bottom. And then I'm just going to go ahead and get that cut. Now, for the tumbler base itself, as you see, I spray painted my tumbler a khaki. So the reason why I did that is because we are going to use one glitter to completely cover this tumbler from top to bottom to give us that dupe look. So not only will it make our plaid look glittered, it will also give our glitter at the top a more tan color, which is what we want. So one glitter to do it all. So I have that trimmed up. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim off any excess. I'm going to wrap it around the bottom and then just give that a trim right up the side there to shorten it up so that way it's not too long. The next thing we need to do is give ourselves a straight line. I'm just going to use this level that it has a magnet on it so I can stick it to the side of the tumbler and get a line etched in so that way I can easily just lay my vinyl down and I know it'll be nice and straight on the side of my tumbler. Because if you go to lay this vinyl down and it's a little crooked, when you go around to the other side, you're definitely going to be able to notice it is because it'll want to kind of go askew. And I'm just showing you here about how far away from the bottom I put it. I just right up to where that curve starts along the bottom is where I ended up laying down the bottom of my vinyl. But anyways, like I was saying earlier, the straighter you can get that first lay down of that vinyl, the better for yourself. Once you start to roll this on, it'll just make it so much more easier. So now that we have that laid down, I'm just going to come through and make sure everything is nicely burnished down. So just rub all your lines down, making sure that it's nicely flush against the tumbler. Now we're going to go ahead and paint the bottom. I wanted it to match the black, so you could do white or black. Do just something to match whatever color plaid vinyl you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and take some tape, and I'm going to tape up along the vinyl. And it took me about 2 coats of the black to fully fill in that area. I'm going to set that off to the side and let that dry. And now is the time for your glitter. So the first thing I'm going to do is seal this down. If I was not using Mod Podge, I would use a spray sealer or a liquid sealer if you want to. But because I'm using Mod Podge, that's pretty much a sealer all on its own. So I'm using the Mod Podge not only to seal the vinyls, but to go ahead and apply my glitter as well. But because this vinyl is so shiny and slick, I'm just worried that if you don't put some type of sealant over top of it, if you do the epoxy method, it'll just kind of want to wick away off of it. So that's the only reason why I'm saying that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my glue down. And the whole point of this process is to go into your cupboard and find a glitter that is semi-transparent. I'm using a semi-transparent white that shifts to a gold color. So sometimes you know how you can tilt your glitter back and forth. You take those white colors and you tilt it back and forth. You can see it either reflects like a rainbow or reflects gold or pink or whatever it may be. But I chose one that reflects a gold undertone. So that way when I sprinkle it down, it's going to create, I don't know, just more of this natural look to it. So, and it being a semi-translucent glitter, it's going to pick up the hints of whatever is underneath it. Just like you can see the plaid, you can see the khaki through it. So it looks like we did a khaki glitter. It looks like we hand glittered at the bottom, and it looks like we added black glitter on the bottom as well, but we didn't, you know? So see, there we go. And for my new friends, if you're like, well, how do I know it's semi-translucent? Take a little bit of the glitter and put it onto your finger. And if you can see your finger through it, if it, you know, you can see your skin tone through the glitter, that's semi-translucent. So if you have a metallic, you can't see through it at all. So that's all you want, is to find something that you can see through. We are back and we let that glue dry completely. And the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and seal down our glitter. You can either use a spray sealer or liquid sealer, whichever you have on hand. We're going to go ahead and take our epoxy and we're going to fully load up our tumbler with our epoxy. And this is my favorite part, is once you apply that epoxy, everything really starts to shine through. Because I know at first you kind of look at it and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. I feel like I just ruined my tumbler. But then after you apply your epoxy and you see the outcome, that's my favorite part. So we're going to go ahead and put that onto our turner. We're going to hit it up really good with our torch to pop all those little micro bubbles. And we're going to let that spin and cure, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. So in my last tutorial, we used fishnet stockings, and yes, again, we are going to utilize those fishnet stockings because a lot came in that package. So I'm going to dig through there and I'm going to find these stockings with the smallest little holes in it, because I feel like this would be absolutely perfect to give our scarecrow some texture and to make it look more like burlap. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off a chunk of the leg to do this with. I almost forgot to do this part. Don't forget to tape off your line where your plaid starts, because we don't want that to look like burlap. I mean, unless you do, I don't know. But go ahead and give that a piece of tape around the center. Now we can go ahead and slide down our fishnet stockings. So you just want to slide that down and you just want to make sure that everything's about even. You want it to be even so it doesn't look off center. Although by the end it's kind of rustic looking anyways with how we do it. I guess it doesn't really matter. And I make sure the weird toe piece is up out of the way so that way that doesn't get in there, because it does have a little bit different of a pattern to it. The paint that I'm going to use is called Fog Gray. I almost said London. It's Fog Gray. And I got that from Michael's. I make sure to find it and put it into the description box for you guys because it was just honestly the perfect color for this. So as you can see, I'm going to take this little round sponge that I have. You could use anything you happen to have on hand. You just need to be very careful when you go to pounce this down. So if you use like a chip brush or a soft brush or something, you just got to make sure that you're not moving your stockings around as you're pouncing down your paint. So we want it pretty dry. We don't want our pouncer too wet with the paints, just enough so that way when we do this motion here, it kind of goes through those holes and it's going to create that look for us. And we are going for a rustic look. So we don't want it fully filled in. We want some of that glitter poking through, with some areas being more saturated with that look, with the painted look, and some areas just having just glitter to it. Now I am using just basic acrylic paint, but if you want to, if you feel comfortable, that is, you could go ahead and take your spray paint and just lightly kind of mist over some spray paint and splotches here and there, and it will kind of create the same illusion as well. And it'll probably go a little bit faster too. I don't know. If you have it, like I said, if you have a spray paint on hand that you're like, well, I'd rather use that, then just do that. Just be careful, okay? And honestly, because we're going over epoxy, if you do that and you don't like it, it's easy enough to wipe away with rubbing alcohol or fingernail polish remover, or acetone rather. So there you go. So I'm just going to continue on this motion, just pouncing in areas, kind of light, just you being very mindful about not pushing the fishnet around so we don't smudge it. But again, even if we do that, like I said, it's rustic. It'll blend in the end, okay? Just try to be careful with it. I'm going to go ahead and hit it up with my blow dryer because it's such a thin coating of acrylic paint. I'm going to hit it up with my blow dryer and let it dry really well before we peel back our fishnets. All right, the moment of truth, we're going to go ahead and flip it upside down here, and we're going to go ahead and peel all this back, revealing our really cool pattern we just made. And I think one of you guys commented that you like to use these to do your fish lure tumblers. And, you know, I've done those before too, but I have never done it with like other things, and I was worried that this was going to look like a fishing lure in the end, but I like it so much. I really like how this really honestly does look like burlap after it's all said and done. So here I'm just kind of taking my brush, because there were some areas that were still a little wet because I didn't dry it fully. So I'm just going to take a big fluffy brush and just kind of blend everything out just a little bit. You can even add a little bit more of the paint too, creating more of a look, but like I said, only I can really see that, but I'm just basically feathering the edges out, which you don't have to do if you don't want to. All right, the next step is we need to go ahead and apply another coat of epoxy over top, because our next step is finishing it up with all of our decals. Main decal and what makes this a scarecrow is the little scarecrow face. I got this right off of Creative Fabrica, so we're going to layer up our own vinyls. So easy. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and size it to whatever the dimensions are that you want to use. Then you want to go ahead and just click on ungroup, and everything's going to ungroup. See, now I have all these different layers here. You're gonna go ahead and pull that apart, and then you'll be able to see what you have here. So of course that's gonna stay black. I'm gonna do the eyes in white, and then I did like a yellow, a darker yellow for the nose. Then is the simple process of stacking all your vinyls together. You'll take the main portion or the outside portion and layer that over top of the nose. And after you pick up the nose, you're going to come over to the eyes and pick the eyes up. And after I have everything transferred, I'm going to go ahead and place that back down onto where I got my main decal from first, so that way I have enough space to lay it down and just kind of cut away any extra and save that off to the side for when I need it. Our tumbler has cured, and our next step is to go ahead and trim up our rim really good. So you just want to very carefully take a razor knife and trim off any excess epoxy that you might have up around the rim area. Then you're going to come through and give it a good sanding, exposing just a small little sliver of that silver. It's just such a pretty sleek look, and it really does give your epoxy something to grip onto when you do that. And you also want to go ahead and come through and sand down the main base as well if it needs it. And of course I will clean everything up with a bit of rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, just making sure we don't have any of the little debris left over from all that sanding. Now the fun part, getting this all put together. So the first thing we're going to do is put our face on. Now, when lining up your face, I just want you to keep in mind that you want it to be as proportionate as possible. See, there's a little bit of a gap towards the bottom where his quote-unquote shirt is, but there's also enough gap at the top that I can add a little hair and the sliver of the hat at the top as well. We are going to freehand the hair and the hat. Trust me. So simple, okay? All you want to do is take a yellow. I had a bright yellow, and then I had this darker yellow. It's more of like a goldenrod, which I thought looked really cute. I liked that. I thought the brighter yellow was just a little too much. And I also have just like this light brown for the hat. So your measurements, of course, might be a little bit different than mine. Just go ahead and measure, and remember that we're keeping a little bit of a gap at the top as well. And we're going to be coming through and trimming up his little hair too. So I just took about, what is this, about a 5x5 chunk of my vinyl. And all we're going to do is make these just very random slits up the vinyl. And you don't want to go through the very top, because that's going to make it easier for us when we go to transfer his hair look onto it, okay? So just, they don't have to be the same size. You want it to be a little off, because that's how hay is, you know? When you look at the hay, there's going to be some that are thicker, some that are thinner, some that are a little more askew. That's how you want it. So simple. Then after that, you're going to come through and you're going to give him a little haircut. You're just going to make very random cuts, and you're going to save those little pieces off to the side, because we're going to need those for his bangs and for kind of filler when we go to apply everything down, which will make a little bit more sense here in a minute. So I pretty much went every other one and just very randomly cut at angles, giving it a little bit more texture. Like I said, we're just pretending like we're hairstylists now. Then I am just going to divvy up that chunk that we made, and I'm going to just cut it completely. So I made 3 different sections out of his hair. So 2 for in the front and 1 for around the back. So that's, see how it's not that big around the front, and then the bigger one's going to be in the back. Then after we struggle for a little bit, we're going to go ahead and just remove a little bit of that paper backing just around the top where we didn't cut all the way through. We're going to get that placed down about the area that we want it. Again, making sure we leave that gap so that way we can apply our little hat here after we're done with the hair. And then we're going to go ahead and just gently burnish that down until it's nicely flush against our scarecrow. So I wanted to make sure that you could visually see the hair whenever you're looking at it straight on. So I brought that hair a little bit more forward, so anything that was kind of covering the mouth, I just went ahead and trimmed it up a bit more after I applied it. There we go, there's our first piece, looking good. I'll repeat that process on the opposite side. And also the very fun thing about this is if your vinyls accidentally kind of overlap one another, That's perfectly fine. It really does add to it, guys. Okay, don't overthink it. I know you guys got this. So now we're gonna go ahead and apply our chunk around the back. And I did actually cut that in half as well, because what I'm gonna do next is fill it in so that way it makes a little bit more sense. So you can cut it up if you want to or not. It really doesn't matter, but we're gonna pretty much do the same exact thing around the back, just kind of lining up that, making sure we kind of visually look at where we're starting the hairline so that way it all kind of lines up as we go around. But this is how it's looking so far, looking cute. Just got some bald spots going on. So we're gonna take all those little pieces that we cut away and we're just gonna randomly fill in those empty areas with those pieces. And I think I just did like one a piece around the backside. I don't know, I liked the way it looked. I thought it looked more natural that way, or you could fill it in completely with a bit more, make it as thick as you'd like it. And of course, for the bangs, I was just trying to be mindful. I just did a few, just thinking about what it would look like once the hat goes on. So I just did 3 little strands of hair poking down in the front. For the hat, I'm going to go ahead and cut about a 1-inch strip. Most of the vinyls have these lines on the back. I just utilize that. It's so much more easier than having to pull out my cutting machine to make it straight. So I'm just going to do that. Now halfway, so about a 1/2 inch, so we're just going to pretty much do this right in half. If you need to, go ahead and make your line now if you need to do that. We're just going to do a simple wave all the way through, creating 2 pieces of this kind of wave look. But now you have 2 hat pieces that you can play with. You can use either one, whichever one you like the best after you kind of visually look at it before you apply it. And all you want to do is simply line that up right above your hairline. I did it a little above it so that way I had enough room, because we want to come through and kind of cut little slits out of the hat. Now the reason why I didn't do this beforehand is just in case. I didn't want it to go too far above the hairline, because you don't want to see the gap, of where the hair isn't. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get that on and cut off the extra. Now, this is optional, obviously. Everything I do is optional. I don't know. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. Nothing's ever set in stone, But now you just want to come through, and I'm going to cut off just random pieces of the edging, just kind of making it look more like a ragged scarecrow. You know what I mean? I don't know. I felt like it really added to it. So that's all I'm going to do. And I am very, very mindful of where the hairline is. So I am going to cut some pieces where the hair actually is. And you can see, when you're looking at it physically, it's hard to see on camera here, but you can see where the hairline is, where the line is. So just don't go above that, because then you'll be able to see the tumbler underneath. And, we don't want that. We just want it to look like the hair is under there. Anyways, that's why I did it after the fact. You could do it beforehand. I don't know. And to finish it off, I'm going to apply some gold nail tape. You can apply nail tape, or if you have vinyl in hand, just get it cut out and applied that way. So I'm going to do it up around the hat. I'm also going to do it around where his shirt line is as well. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I have a ton of vinyl sitting over here, and I went digging through and I'm like, oh, right, I bought these last year. I want to use some. So I'll put into the description box where I purchased these. Aren't those cute? So adorable. And the colors go so well with it. So I'm going to go ahead and pick out 2 pumpkins. So I know there's a lot of different kind of decals out there. This one is just a regular like white cast decal, so that way it has a white backing on the pattern itself, so that way you can just burnish it down and it looks like you can't see through it. There we go. But it has a clear outer side to it, so you have to apply it all that way. You don't remove the clear. It's all part of, it's a printed sticker pretty much. But I know that, it can be confusing, especially with UV DTF decals, because you have to pull the backing off that. So you don't do that with these. You just lay it down just as is and burnish it down really well, making sure you get all the little bubbles out. So I just went ahead and I stacked my 2 little pumpkins together. I wasn't really sure if I was going to do that, but I actually really like it. I thought it was super cute. So now for the quote, I just printed this out myself. Hey girl, hey. I just kind of played with that quote, but instead of like hey, like hello, it's obviously spelled like hey, like, because it's a scarecrow. Anyways, again, optional. You can do that. It's so simple. You just stack it on top of each other like I did here, or have it go any which way you want. And there you go. What did I do? It was like a textured bronze metallic that I used to go over top. I'm just going to lay that down right down here at the bottom. Now, before I apply my final coat of epoxy, I am going to come through and apply some liquid sealer. It was raining outside, so I'm going to use my liquid sealer today. But you pretty much just do a thin layer of that over top of everything. Let that dry completely. And to add a little bit of shine over top of everything, I applied a bit of Jupiter down into my epoxy. I applied my epoxy. I'm going to go ahead and let that cure, and she is ready to go. Whether you take this and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.